Greetings, we'll cover a few details about Mary of Teck and his life in a succinct manner. Here is a short rundown of his early years, education, engagements, Mary as Duchess of York and Prince of Wales, Queen Mary, Queen of Two Kings' mother, legacy, and demise. As the wife of King Emperor George V, Mary of Teck, Victoria Mary Augusta Louise, Olga Pauline Claudine Agnes, May 26, 1867, March 24, 1953, reigned as Queen of the United Kingdom and the British Dominions, from May 6, 1910 to January 29, 1936, and as Empress of India. Mary was born and raised in the UK. She was the daughter of Francis, Duke of Teck, a German aristocrat, and Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge, a minor member of the British royal family, and the granddaughter of King George III. Informally, they called her May for the month in which she was born. Also known as Victoria Mary Augusta Louise, Olga Pauline Claudine Agnes, famous as former Queen, Consort of the United Kingdom and the British Dominions. Born May 26, 1867, Kensington Palace, London, United Kingdom. Died March 24, 1953, Marlborough House, London, United Kingdom. Father, Francis, Duke of Teck. Mother, Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge. Siblings, Alexander Cambridge, 1st Earl of Athlone, Prince Francis of Teck, Adolphus Cambridge, 1st Marquess of Cambridge. Spouse, George V. Children, King George VI, Edward VIII, Mary, Princess Royal and Countess of Harewood, Prince Henry, Duke of Gloucester, Prince George, Duke of Kent, Prince John. The Duke of Teck, Prince Francis, and Mary Adelaide, Princess of Cambridge, welcomed Mary of Teck on May 26, 1867, at Kensington Palace in London. She was baptized on July 27, that same year, in the Royal Chapel of Kensington Palace, by Archbishop of Canterbury Charles Thomas Longley. 3 of Mary's brothers were younger. The 4 cousins of the Prince of Wales spend time with the 4 siblings. Her mother and governesses taught her at home, while her brothers were sent to residential schools. Mary's mother, who through marriage acquired the title Duchess of Teck, pushed her to participate in social services and to visit the homes of the needy to make donations. The family had to live simply because Mary's father, a morganatic marriage progeny, did not inherit any money or property. The Duchess of Teck got an annuity from the British Parliament and an annual payment from her mother, the Duchess of Cambridge, because she was a direct descendant of King George III. Despite receiving assistance, her family was still in debt. They visited their relatives, who were dispersed throughout Europe in order to save costs and save money. They wandered from 1883 to 1885, returned to London, and began residing in White Lodge, at Richmond Park. Mary's mother threw lavish parties, despite being in debt, and she was always willing to lend a helping hand. She was debuted at court as a debutante in her first season in 1886, going by the name May. She was a good match for Prince Albert Victor, Duke of Clarence and Avondale, her second cousin once removed, and the eldest son of the Prince of Wales, because he was the most eligible bachelor in the royal family, and she was the only unmarried British princess, who was not a descendant of Queen Victoria. May accepted Albert Victor's marriage proposal on December 3 at Luton, who, then the country home of Danish ambassador, Christian Frederick de Falbe. Due to Queen Victoria's affection for her, as well as her moral character and sense of responsibility, May was chosen as the bride for the Duke. However, a worldwide influenza epidemic that struck in 1889 to 1890 again claimed Albert Victor's life 6 weeks later. May and Prince George, Duke of York, who is now second in line to the throne and is the brother of Albert Victor, apparently grew close during their time of mutual bereavement, and Queen Victoria still regarded her as a suitable match for a future monarch. May accepted George's proposal in May 1893. They fell in love immediately, and their marriage was successful. George, unlike his father, never had a mistress and wrote to May every day. They were apart. Following her union with Prince George, Duke of York, Mary assumed the title of Duchess of York. They first lived in St. James's Palace, but they also briefly lived in Norfolk County's York Cottage. The couple welcomed 6 children into the world: John, Edward, Albert, Mary, Henry, and Mary. The Duke and Duchess of York hired nannies to look after their kids. But just one nanny, Charlotte Bill, kept working for a long time because she got along well with the kids. Charlotte was specifically employed to care for Prince John, who was said to have epilepsy. Mary demonstrated her ability to be a sympathetic mother by teaching her kids moral principles and providing them with music and history courses. Her oldest kid, Edward, had mixed feelings about how his mother treated him and his siblings. He expressed supportive opinions in his journals but scathing critiques in private letters to his better half. Mary and George carried out all required public obligations in their formal capacities as the Duchess and the Duke of York, respectively. As an illustration, she made the same purchases from the London Needlework Guild as her mother, Princess Mary Adelaide of Cambridge. Even the teacup draperies and chair upholstery were stitched by her. King Edward VII began his reign as sovereign head of state in 1901, following the passing of Queen Victoria. As Duchess and Duke of York and Cornwall, Mary and George set off on a lengthy tour of several of the nations ruled by the British. After George and Mary returned from their international excursion, they were crowned as Prince of Wales and Princess of Wales in 1901, and they moved from St. James's Palace to Marlborough House. John, Mary's youngest child, was born in 1905 with congenital respiratory issues. The Duke and Duchess of York traveled to the Indian subcontinent for 8 months beginning in 1905. After quickly returning, they departed for Spain in order to attend the wedding of King Alfonso XIII and Victoria Eugenie of Battenberg. They traveled to Norway in 1905 to see King Haakon VII's coronation. King Haakon was George's brother-in-law when George wed Queen Maud, his sister. Following the death of Mary's in-law King Edward VII on May 6, 1910, her husband was anointed King George V, making Mary the Queen Consort. She removed the name Victoria at George V's request as a tribute to her in-grandmother-laws. On June 22, 1911, Mary and George were crowned in Westminster Abbey, making George the sovereign ruler of the United Kingdom, the British Isles, and British India. The newly crowned King and Queen paid a visit to India that year to mark the occasion of their coronation at the Delhi Durbar. Even though Mary got along well with her mother-in-law, Queen Alexandra, they frequently disagreed. For instance, long after the passing of her husband Edward VII, Queen Alexandra purposefully overstayed her welcome at Buckingham Palace. She also kept back several of the crown jewels that were supposed to go to Queen Mary. Throughout the entirety of World War I, Mary of Teck was at her most charitable, paying visits to wounded troops in hospitals and hospices. With Germany's surrender and Wilhelm II, the German emperor, abdicating the throne, World War I came to an end in 1918. Mary was horrified and devastated when her youngest son, John, died at the age of 13. She persisted in giving her husband her undivided support as he performed his official duties as King of England. When George V's sickness rendered him unable to function normally in the 1920s, Queen Mary provided excellent care for him. On January 20, 1936, George V passed away from his sickness, making space for Edward, Prince of Wales, to take the throne. She ascended to the position of Queen Mother upon her eldest son's coronation. When he made a marriage proposal to Wallis Simpson, an American woman who had been divorced twice, her son Edward immediately, after taking the throne, provoked a constitutional problem. Edward abdicated his throne in order to wed Wallis since custom forbade him from taking a divorcee as his queen. Prince Albert, Duke of York, Mary's second child and Edward's younger sibling, was installed as the new monarch. When Albert became king, he took the name George VI. After World War II began, Mary moved to Gloucestershire's Badminton House, to live with her niece Mary Somerset, Duchess of Beaufort. Throughout the war, she gave the troops all assistance she could, even going to the front lines, to speak with the troops. One of Mary's sons, Prince George, perished in an aeroplane accident. When King George VI passed away in 1952, Princess Elizabeth, Mary's oldest granddaughter, ascended to the throne and became Queen Elizabeth II. The loss of her three sons, John, George, and Albert, devastated Mary of Teck. Queen Mary University in London, Queen Mary Reservoir in Surrey, and Queen Mary College in Lahore, are just a few of the sites and structures that bear her name. She was described as beyond politics, magnificent, funny, worldly, even sublime, albeit cold and hard, by Sir Henry Chips Shannon. But what a magnificent queen! 10 weeks prior to the coronation of her granddaughter, Mary passed away in her sleep on March 24, 1953, at the age of 85. She had made it clear that the coronation would not be delayed if she passed away. At Westminster Hall, where her remains were on display, a throng of mourners filed past her casket. In the chapel's nave, at Windsor Castle's St. George's Chapel, she rests alongside her spouse.